if you ever plan to grow hybrid seedlings, what you want to do is save the center seeds and grow those. That is what some of the really hardcore dragon fruit people that I've met over the years recommend. So it is sweetest in the center, so that makes sense. So,
There's not a lot of seeds in this one.
no, it's not very seedy at all. So no matter what, I need to save that. So don't let me forget. I'm going to save that one and get the center out for me too and put that in there.
What if the center's the best place to eat?
Well, that's true, but off-season fruit, these aren't going to taste good.
Are these gonna be bad?
I doubt it. If we have 1 or 2 winners, I'd be surprised. I do not enjoy eating off-season fruit, especially it gets gelatinous, very earthy.
It's a little more dense. This almost
Very
has like,
dense, but it's not bad.
almost has like a pear consistency.
Ooh, no, it gets to earthiness. Wow. That tastes like I'm licking a dirty shoe. I don't want to eat any more of that. So,
It's not the best.
I mean, it's healthy. I guess it is healthy, right? It's like eating really bad beet vegetables.
They're not always the best.
Nope, I can't eat it.
All right, next.
All right, next.
What was this one? Desert King?
That was Lisa crossed with Desert King, and I crossed that, I want to say around November. So it was on the branch from basically like the 2nd or 3rd of November on. So let's stick with another red flesh. Let's do Caslau, also known as K. And this one I believe came from Nicaragua, and it's a sister seedling, or it's very similar to Lisa, Sabra, and the others. It's going to be earthy this time of year. I picked it green. It colored up a bit. And it's been in the fridge for about a week. Now, what I am noticing is that the flesh is very dense.
Yeah, it's
and it's
firm.
not gelatinous. I haven't
No.
had any gelatinous yet. And that can happen when it gets really cold.
That's better.
Not
But-
much. It's a little sweeter.
I feel like it could have ripened a little more.
It is. I picked it early because we got something like 5 or 6 inches of rain the past week. And so the few that I left on the vine either rotted. I had like 4 on the plants left. Like 2 sugar dragon that are still okay. I have a dark star that turned rotten. Some others that turned rotten. And I think that's mainly because the intense rain and then the really cold weather. It was 36 degrees this morning at our house.
Yeah, the summer's definitely better for.
Summer
How's
season
that?
dragon fruit.
Yeah, it takes so long to get ripe in the winter. It just sits there and does
I can't
nothing.
eat this. But I would say Scott had a Caslau as well that he grew in his yard. We're at his house, by the way, tonight doing this review. And you said it was your favorite of the season.
Yeah, it looked like this when I picked it, but then I let it sit for probably a week, week and a half.
And so I think
I
that's
thought
a
it was
really
really
good
good.
idea. And that's what Scott has done. I haven't tried this yet, but I usually put them straight in the refrigerator. And he left them on your counter for a week, right? And just kind of, I know that they'll turn color, but I doubt if well, you said it got
You
a
know what
little
I did
softer,
too?
right?
Yeah, you know what I did? I actually left a little bit of the branch on the fruit,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that maybe there's some residual energy in there that could.
There is. I think that's smart.
I don't know.
I think I'm going to go pick my last few fruit I have tomorrow and do that experiment and see what's going to happen.
If you have any questions, type it in the chat and Paul will answer.
Yep, this is our first live video, and we thought we'd try it out because we have all these fruit that we're going to just taste, and we thought we wouldn't let them go to waste. Now,
Yeah.
this is what I'm really excited about. So if you're here watching, you're lucky because I think Sugar Dragon could be an off-season fruit. Meaning, what I've noticed so far, and I have a bunch here, I got Sugar Dragon, Voodoo Child, and Arizona Purple, and they were the least damaged from the cold weather that we had this season. I mean, look, that still could be a commercial potential fruit. If you look, there's no signs of rust on the skin.
What's wrong with this?
Well, this was actually, it's pretty cool. I'm excited to try this. This is the Sugar Dragon that went from a branch to a flower bud. So you can see it started as a branch
Oh,
and
okay.
it morphed. So shouldn't affect the fruit quality.
So this sugar dragon right here looks
This
a
is
little,
Sugar
looks
Dragon.
a little lighter than.
Well,
yours,
it's
huh?
because it was still green and I left it in the refrigerator for about 10 days
Okay.
and it's colored up slightly.
So you took all of these off the vine and right in the refrigerator.
Straight to the fridge.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, I take that back because what I do is I soak them in water because we get ants. I clean them and then I place them on a towel and I leave them in my garage until they dry.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll leave a fan on it, and to speed up the process, and then I place them in the fridge.
Oh, this is good. This is the best.
I
so
bet you
far.
this is gonna taste good tonight.
The consistency is more like a normal dragon fruit would be.
Yep.
The others were like really firm, like a pear or something.
I think this is worthy to check the bricks, so let's do it.
All right, do bricks.
Because I want to see what percent sugar we could get on anything that tastes like commercial quality,
That's solid.
It's good. I'm gonna eat this whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was noticing this season is I think if people want more of the off-season type of fruit, I think Selenocereus cetaceus could be the one. If you've been following our channel for a while, hopefully you got to see our friend, the great Danny Loftus, and he talked about having a sugar dragon flower bloom Christmas night, Christmas Eve, something like that. So he was getting flower buds into December, which is pretty cool. Now, what do you predict if you had to guess? Not that bricks is that important, but it's a good
16.
Very close. 15 and 4/10. So pretty good, Scott. And I would have guessed it was about a 16.5, but maybe it's just because the other fruit tasted so bad.
Yeah, it didn't have overwhelming sweetness like a sugar dragon does in the summertime, but it was really good. I mean, it was
The consistency, the texture is spot on.
Yeah, spot on. Texture spot on.
Yeah, this is lovely fruit.
Yeah, I think letting it sit on the counter for a little bit would help with the texture.
Especially if you're willing to get rid of a piece of a branch, too.
Yeah.
All right, what do you want to try next? We got Llamas from our friend,
I've never
the Great
had
Peps. No, I've never had it. We have Arizona Purple, which people say is like sugar dragon. However, I thought it was very interesting. We had a single spine on my first Arizona Purple fruit, which is a lot more common that you'll see on Voodoo Child. And these.
So have we figured out the difference between Pink Panther, Sugar Dragon, Voodoo Child, and
And Arizona Purple and Sugar
Purple.
Dragon and 8S and 7S.
What do you think are the difference between? Do you think any of those are the same, or are they all just slightly different?
I'm gonna do an episode this summer once I can have them all together.
Right.
And what I think is one, Arizona Purple is like that Voodoo Child with a single thorn. I'm noticing, and Sugar Dragon. They all taste so similar, and it could be very possible somebody just grew a Sugar Dragon seedling and made a Voodoo Child. But I don't think we'll ever figure it out. The gene of Selenocereus cetaceus is so strong, it just seems to dominate, especially if you hybridize it with unless you do like Guatemalensis, Ocamponus, and Selenocereus cetaceus and Megalanthus. Those DNAs tend to be really strong.
I think we have a question here.
Ooh, finally.
Do you have any Sugar Dragon cuttings available for sale?
I always have a couple of Sugar Dragons, but if you send me an email, I think $10 or something like that, I'll hook you up.
What's the email?
What plant is that, Paul, at gmail.com.
There you go.
And we do not sell them internationally. So
yeah,
I do actually have a couple Voodoo Child plants that are rooted that I am willing to get rid of if you live locally as well.
Yeah, shoot us an email and we'll help you out if we can. But usually there's a lot of Sugar Dragon available. So.
Yeah, you can get those almost anywhere. So if you live somewhere where there's dragon fruit growing, I suggest just find a local plant. Unless you don't have a trustworthy source, right? I mean, that's key too.
All right. Let's see. I do wonder about the potential hybrid of Sugar Dragon and the Ecuador Pelora. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea. Pelora does not grow well in my climate. I have it grafted, and that's the only way I'm getting it to grow well. However, it gets damaged every cold season. We have not gone down below like 35. But I think eventually I'll get my Pelora as a pollen source. I'm thinking, honestly, it'd be cool to maybe try something like maybe a Desert King and Sugar Dragon, or a Sugar Dragon and a Guatemalan. There's quite a few things I'm interested in, but I do like the DNA of the Sugar Dragon. It's just, if we could get it bigger, I think that would be key.
So you think it's too cold for Pelora where you live?
Well, I think ungrafted it is, because I failed growing it naturally, and it would grow fine, but then as soon as spring hit, it would get really damaged. It couldn't wake up, and the sun was too intense. I think you would have to grow it under intense shade or in a greenhouse.
Got it.
So Pelora is a very big challenge for me in inland San Diego. I think if you're along the coast, I think it would do really well. Now this is Arizona Purple, and let's see how it tastes. Oh, is that one of your sparkling waters?
Yeah, you might need a palate cleanser.
Okay. 16 and 3/10 for the Voodoo Child.
Which
it's-
one is this?
Sorry, Arizona Purple.
This is Arizona Purple. So it is a little larger than the Sugar Dragon, but Sugar Dragons do come in this size, so.
Oh yeah, they'll get about.
But
maybe
this
three-quarters
is
of
a
pound.
good size Sugar Dragon. If you got a Sugar Dragon this size, you'd be
It's
stoked.
so hard to tell the difference. I would say this one tastes a bit more soapy.
Soapy.
That's how I describe it. This aftertaste.
What kind of soap? Like
I don't know.
Dawn
Not
or
a bad thing. It's more like an Irish Spring.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Do you feel that vibe? That's how
I
I
actually-
describe it.
You're right.
And I now everybody that ever tries it will be like, but it's only sometimes.
No, you're right. No, it's kind of it's like sudsy or something.
Yeah,
like
I've had a
that.
dozen of them where you get this vibe.
You know what it tastes
sometimes.
like? It tastes like when you wash your glass out, but it doesn't get.
And you
all the
left a
way
little
washed out.
Dawn, maybe.
Yeah, all right.
I'm a more Irish Spring kind of.
All right, hold on. We got another comment.
It's a little mushy though. I don't want it.
He says, "I got my grafted Pelura under a deciduous tree.
Mm-hmm.
It luckily survived so far in its first winter in the Central Valley."
Ooh. All right. Well, that's pushing it. If it starts to act up, I would graft your Pelura to a hardy rootstock and see if that would be better. I grafted ours to Maria Fusia and it had a great season. It did, like I said, the tips got damaged at about 35 degrees in our climate. And we've been really wet, and I'm sure Central Valley's been even gnarlier.
Yeah, it's totally soapy.
See? It's a drawback, and that is Arizona Purple, which I now believe is Voodoo Child, although all the documentation prior says it's the same as Sugar Dragon. So
Okay.
there's something if you're watching our live show, that I probably wouldn't do on a video because I don't feel 100%, but that's where I'm trending. And see now, I'll follow up with this Voodoo Child and tell me if you think it's the same as Arizona Purple, Scott.
So all the Arizona Purples you have been soapy.
No. I've had two. But I've noticed that Voodoo Child sometimes tastes this soapy, but
Sometimes.
I've only gotten that from Sugar Dragon like once.
All right, so this is Voodoo Child. Can't really
And this one has been in the fridge, dude, since Christmas Eve.
okay.
What's today? January 17th, right?
Well aged.
Yeah. I think about that, so it affects my palate, but it actually tastes fine.
The consistency is
It's
good.
a little mushy. The Sugar Dragon was the best.
This is good though.
I know, and it's been in the fridge for that long. It started to look really bad on the outside,
No, this is good.
but the inside's still bomb. And
This-
so,
This might be my favorite.
but do you
so far.
see what I mean? Like, I'm all about trying to find more. I want to extend the dragon fruit season, right? And I think this DNA has that potential.
It makes
This is
sense.
Sugar Dragon tastes. It's the best fruit off season I've had so far.
Yeah, Sugar Dragon is usually the first to bloom and the last to bloom.
Yep.
In my yard.
Yep.
I have Sugar Dragon that are still in the vine right now, and they're just like green, and they will not ripen at all. They won't even get close. They're just stuck. It's like maybe I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see what happens in the
That's
spring. If they'll actually ripen.
Yeah.
eventually.
So I think, and the older your plant gets on a Sugar Dragon, I think the more fruit it will, and the higher quality fruit it will produce.
That's good.
Are you getting any of the soapy finish like that other?
There is a tad bit of soapiness, but it's so faint that I don't. It's nothing.
Yeah, I only get it more on the Voodoo Childs, but every now and then I've had the Sugar Dragon.
You're right, though. I don't think I've ever really thought about that flavor, but it is there.
Yeah, that's how I describe it. Not a bad soapy. Like there's a stigma to soap, right?
All right, so
All
we got
right.
another comment from John Henderson.
Hey, John.
Hopeful to have fruits this year. Yeah.
Takes time.
How long have you had your plants, John?
Variety too. The variety matters.
Are you growing from cuttings and they're just taking forever? Usually takes a few years, but
Yeah, if you get lucky, you can get it in one season or 1 year or a little over, depending on the variety. Probably the fastest. What are probably the fastest offhand? I'm trying to think
in
of.
Tim's greenhouse, that's the
Yeah,
fastest.
push nitrogen in the winter and be in a greenhouse. I think some of the whites will do that pretty quick in one season if you get lucky. Some of the reds. I'm trying to think offhand what.
I feel like
fruit got
Sugar
one
Dragon.
season. Maria Fusia did it in one season.
I
That
feel
was
like
pretty
Sugar
cool.
Dragon was like season 2. I was getting flowers.
Yeah,
so.
by the first season, it shoots a lot of growth. All right, up next is a shout out to Peps. And Peps, he found a friend gave him this variety a long time ago. It looks half Guatemalan, half kind of Costarricensis. It's a unique one, Scott. I've never had this. It's off season. It grew it on the base of the plant. It's a red fleshed fruit, but
What's this one called?
this is we just use his last name.
Just Peps?
Yamas, yeah.
Oh yeah.
no.
All right.
And he likes the fruit. It grows really well. It looks like a Guatemalan but spinier.
Okay. Feels pretty firm.
And it's more reminiscent of, I get a red flesh vibe, but maybe some Guatemalan. It could be.
Earthier.
Reminds me a bit of like a red Jaina, a good red Jaina.
I feel like this is underripe.
Oh, it's absolutely underripe. It's the first one of the season, but it was splitting on the outside.
Yeah.
So this is not a good representation. But if you look at the skin here, it is pretty close to being ripe. I mean, that's not a
Yeah, it looks ripe to me. It
unless
looks
it's just
totally
a thin
ripe.
rind variety.
And I don't know what this tastes like on its best day.
Yeah,
But it does feel maybe slightly firm, like it could loosen up, and then
I'm gonna wait till next season on
it doesn't really have a. I give this a very low score as far as it's just a kind of flat.
Yeah, but it's
But I feel like
it's
it
not
could
the
be.
plant's fault. It's
I
got
feel like it could
potential.
be, yeah.
And this is why you can't ever judge an off-season fruit, especially if it's the
No.
first one on a plant. This is basically the worst time to be eating dragon fruit.
This is true.
Oh man, I don't even want to eat this, Scott.
Is it gross?
Well, some people don't mind this, but I do not like this flesh consistency. It turns to jelly.
I might try.
I
a
call
little
it
corn.
mush.
I'll
I'll try a
corn.
bit, but
There's some areas.
this is what bums me, and
This
this
feels-
is San Ignacio.
It feels like a bruising almost, like it
Dude,
took a hit or something. But
San Ignacio, when it's on season, it's really good fruit, but it does not perform well. I think most of these don't perform well. The Costarricensis, Lisa, Sabra, San Ignacio, Caslao, they don't do so well in the cold weather with the fruit ripening, in my opinion. And the problem is these are late to start and late to finish too. So you end up losing a lot of that last season fruit. Maybe on a really mature plant, no.
yeah, this one's kind of bland.
Brown,
Not the best.
no thanks. Yeah. See, I can't do that. Don't lose those seeds.
The greatest Mrs. Pile. is
I
good.
know. Sorry, guys. We'll compost these. All right, up next, I'm interested to see an off-season El Grullo. Now, Ocamponis is a polarizing taste. Personally, it's not my favorite, but some people love it. And I've taken it to parties, and this ends up being people's favorite first-time dragon fruit. They love it. I gave some fruit to one of my wife's friends, and she put this one in the freezer. And it blew her mind. She said it was the best dragon fruit she had. And what she did is she cut it in half, put it in the freezer for a few hours, and she said it was like a sorbet.
Nice.
So I may try that one day. We got a question, did we?
Yeah. Well, we just have a
Comment?
M cubed says thank you guys so much for all your knowledge. All right, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you for watching. We've
Hey,
never done this. So
Yeah. If you have any questions, go ahead and type it into the chat.
we're here to talk, we're here to help, and
We'll
we're
see.
here to eat some really off-season fruit.
All right. Let's do it. So this was the
Tastes like candy beets to me.
okay. This was the favorite of someone's.
Ooh. Oh, man.
Was it bad?
Very vegetal afterwards. I don't mean to, don't be scared of it, dude. Caught me off guard.
Yeah, it's pretty
Good in the start. It's good in the start.
This would be good in a smoothie or something, I think. It needs a little help.
Ooh. I think I ate some dirt. All right, let's get rid of this one. Let's bring out some more. I think
I didn't see that question. Here we go. Sorry. Davis Dean Sellers says, have you ever tasted Godzilla?
Godzilla, I have not. It rots every winter in my yard. I've had it for 3 years, and I think it's going to be a decent red flesh.
He has Godzilla.
I have it, and I also think, from what I know, Hawaiian purple is, or Hawaiian red. I think it's Hawaiian purple is the same. People report. Now, the more dragon fruit I consume, and the more varieties I've grown over time. I've only been doing it since 2018 or 2019, really seriously, and I'm more drawn to the Guatemalans and some of the different varieties, and they're more the purple fleshed, I'll say, than the red fleshed. Although some of the red fleshed are brilliant. And we have some mini ones that we've never had before. So this one is actually a really beautiful looking fruit. This is Leo Manuel's Red ES1. And he got this from Edgar Valdivia himself. Long ago, it had Edgar's name. And Red ES1, ES1 stands for Edgar's Seedling -1.
Ivan wants to know what species is a Godzilla?
Godzilla, I believe, is Hyloceus propusii or Hyloceus.
Whoa.
Hey,
Whoa.
yeah, it's proper. Don't worry. And or it could be Costrosensis. I can't remember offhand. I'm leaning more towards propusii.
Davis responded that he lost his Godzilla 3 years in
Yep.
a row. So
And Godzilla is, I believe it was collected from Hawaii, if I remember correctly. So it's probably one of those varieties that tends to do better in those warmer climates, and those more tropical. I just know mine gets worked every winter. It does fine, it gets worked, and then it comes back and it has not produced fruit. And honestly, it's on my list of you're going to get one more season, and if you don't do something good this season, I'm going to get rid of it.
yeah, there's enough dragon fruit to go around. You don't need to challenge yourself with something that doesn't like your climate or just isn't working out. So
And
it's best
I'm just getting way more into hybrids, and I think easiest to say is I prefer over time. My palate really prefers Guatemalensis varieties and purple fleshed hybrids as well, pink fleshed, and a few of the really good whites. So if you haven't had a good white, if you're gonna grow a white, K1 hands down is my favorite one out of every white variety I've had so far.
All right, M Cube says, I just lost a variety to root rot as I planted it too deep like an idiot. It's okay
man, that
to start
happens.
from cuttings from the top if it's not rotten or it's ruined once the root rot. So he wants to know that if he can fix it, I think.
Well, cut a viable piece if you can, let it sit out for a while. And if it's mature, honestly, I wouldn't even plant it again until probably March. These plants are really resilient. You can leave it out. I've left some just under my greenhouse on the outside in the full shade this winter, my Attritia and a few others. And they literally have like 3-inch roots, and I just left them in the full shade, outdoors, no sun.
Yeah, and you could graft a piece too. if
You could
want.
graft one. Make sure you check your soil. Make sure you're not using, in my opinion, Fox Farm or something with any type of compost. We've switched to something similar to Gary's Best Top Pot, a more mineral based or peat moss, pumice, perlite, sand, biochar, those things, and we're having a lot more success. And I'm proud to say I've had 0 stem rot this winter. And I think a lot of it is just using a different type of growing media and having well draining soil as well.
Davis said he followed up and said he pulled his Godzilla and he lives in Sacramento.
Yeah, I probably would do the same if I lived up there. If I lived along the coast, I think I'd be enjoying a Godzilla fruit by now. Now, this red ES1 was picked early. Scott, I don't like it.
Oh, is it bad?
It's just
checking out here.
kind of flavorless. I didn't know we had that many comments. You're in charge of that.
The Brewing Miner says a few of mine were growing in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
M Cube says switch to Gary's after your video. Okay, that's great.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I can't say enough how much I prefer using that growing media. It's been a lot better, and especially telling this winter.
Isn't that bad? I like it's tart.
Well, you like the tart.
A little
It's just
sour to it.
I know that it's underdeveloped, I guess.
At least it has something.
Yeah, something's better than nothing.
All right, we got Brewing Miner says having a mix like Gary's actually helped my dragon survive stem rot as well. There you go.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with the right potting soil, and it's really sad. Like, I mean, I was naive myself. You talked to me like 3 years ago, I would have argued with you fought you tooth and nail because I was so pro Fox Farms until about season 2 and season 3. If you're growing in Fox Farm and you can avoid getting the soil wet, I think you're going to be a lot better off. It seems like once it gets wet in the cold is where you have a lot of problems. Or by season 3 for me, that started having problems as well.
If you were to change your Fox Farms out every season or two, you probably would be fine, but that's very expensive.
And a lot of work. And even then, you're still going to be damaging your plant. I mean, you're going to be harming the roots no matter what.
The Brewing Miner also said they were able to naturally contain it a couple inches below the soil line.
That's good. Sometimes it will even just bounce back as long as, I mean, Linda Nickerson, a good friend of mine who used to be in, well, she's retired, but Elk Creek Dragon Fruit, she told me that honestly, if you're getting any rot, she would just take her hands and squeeze it so you cut it open by hand and squeeze it out, and 99% of the time, the plant will bounce back. It's just leaving that rot to expand in the branches is where you get a lot of your problems. And I've been really busy this week. I have some rot down in the lower part of our collection, and that's my goal this week is I'm going to go and clean out all of it so it doesn't spread.
All right, Davis Dean Sellers. He says he uses a blend of Coconut Core, Fox Farms, and Cactus Blend, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, I used to do something like that, and I mean, I'm not hating on Fox Farm. I think it's great, and I use it, but now I only use it like Gary has recommended, where we use it as a top dressing, and I think that's been working really well so far. I'm also mixing a lot more. I am adding worm castings to our mix now, so it's kind of evolved to, if you want to know, my main ingredient would be peat moss still, and then I follow it up with a lot of pumice. I still use number 3 and number 4 perlite when I can find it. Number 4 is my favorite. A good amount of biochar, sand, some local DG from my yard, although I've learned recently that Tim George recommended that DG has some drawbacks, so I'm going to cut using that and stick to what he knows, because I think he's an expert compared to my knowledge about things. And this is just an evolution, you know. And I think the biggest problem is the universities have really pushed this potting soil that has a short time span, and it's made of compost, which is a good thing because we need to get rid of the compost, but at the same time it's bad for the long-term longevity of your plants.
Yeah, Gary had he had good things to say about Fox Farm. He just recommended using it in a different way. So
yeah,
Fox Farms is not bad. He actually, I think he
called it
like
the Cadillac
yeah,
of potting soil.
It's expensive.
Mm-hmm. It is. He called it the Cadillac. It has really high quality ingredients. The backguana is good. The worm castings are good. There's a lot of good things, but just keep it at the top of your potting soil and stick to that mineral-based potting soil, in my opinion. Now,
Okay.
Scott, I'm not going to tell you what this one is, but this one is something I've never had, and tell me what you think. It's a pink fleshed. It's not red. It's more of a
Salmon.
mm-hmm.
It's kind of dense.
This is a very rare hybrid. Very few people have had it. I'm not saying that to brag, but you want to hear what it is? It is Leo Manuel's Megalanthus, Solanaceus megalanthus, Hylocereus costarocensis hybrid, and he had so many seedlings in different pots.
Oh,
I can't even keep track, but this is pot K.
I remember that one.
So I have A through Q, I believe. So that many different pots of his seedlings. Some are repeats, but most are unique. And I've learned that all the ones that have a pink flesh or the salmon color are not bad. I mean, it's a little mushy, but it's sweet.
It's not bad.
I'm not gonna break
What,
some-
Max Trees wants to know, what is DG?
DG is decomposed granite. Sorry. That is a common ingredient that people use. And most of my yard is really old decomposed granite. So I have a few spots in the yard where I can just shovel it and scrape it out and use it. I'll still add a little bit, about 5 or 10%, but just is not as good. I can't remember offhand why Tim George said that it's not the best. And he said it was good in a small amount. All right, up next, I don't know. I cut off and it says on your end what it is.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I don't know what this means. What is that?
This is Natural Mystic.
Oh, Natural Mystic.
Yep, Natural Mystic.
I've heard of that.
Yep, and I actually am really excited because the other seedling, we're not going to taste this one tonight. I'm going to take it home because I want to grow the seeds. But I was able to cross Natural Mystic with Sayarong's Orange Dragon. So this is a Megalanthus DNA, which I'm on the fence. I can't wait to try the fruit if it turns out this season. But I have a beautiful Sayarong's Orange fruit developing. And it came from, I want to say, the Philippines. I have the story, I just can't remember it offhand. And I communicated with Sayarong, and he was Leo Manuel's close friend. And they were really good friends, and he said he missed him when Leo passed. I was communicating with him. And my favorite thing he said is that Leo Manuel would always sign his emails, horticulturally yours.
Oh.
And I thought that was really cool. So anyways, Natural Mystic, it's on my sort of naughty list. I don't want to call it that, it's kind of lame, but it's on my I'm not sure if I want to keep growing this variety list because there's a few drawbacks. It's not always my favorite. Try it, Scott, see what you think.
All right. M Cube says, do you have a favorite base for your grafting roots? So he wants to know favorite rootstock.
Good question. I don't graft so much now. I keep experimenting with somatic hybrids because I firmly believe it's a possibility, and I think I can repeat it if I get lucky and persevere over time and just keep trying. But in terms of rootstock, I would suggest two things. One, it grows really well in your climate. Two, it's a sweet variety. So those are the two things that I find I would recommend as I've learned more about grafting and grafted a few things myself over time. So again, I would suggest using something that grows really well in your environment and is very sweet.
Yeah, I feel like once you get a certain amount of plants, you probably aren't really concerned with grafting too much. And I mean, you have any plants you have that are mature now?
Let's not talk about that. Too many, man. I'm getting rid of some. So I went from, it's an interesting shift for me, and probably maybe I'm a slight hoarder or something, but it's really hard for me to let some of the varieties go. But a really excellent orchid grower that we've met on this journey of our channels is Dwayne. And Dwayne said, don't ever feel bad getting rid of something that doesn't do really well. Otherwise, you're always going to be making excuses for it, and don't do that. So grow the best. If you want to grow the best, it has to grow the best in your climate and your environment. So I'm going to have I'm going to get rid of quite a few varieties this year, mostly white and red, just to let you know. But I'm going to give them one more season. So Scott, did you try that one? What did you think?
This one, actually getting a little soapy from it.
Yeah, it was. All right, I'm really interested to have you see this one.
I wouldn't say this is very good.
No, they're off season, man. And this is going to be another horrible fruit. See how the dense seeds that you see on it? Hopefully you could see that. That is a really bad sign that you're going to have not tasty dragon fruit.
All right, we got Brewing Miner. He says Vietnam White is a versatile rootstock, usually the most common and good fallback if you can't find any other good ones.
I agree. A lot of people recommend that. A great grafter and a really inspiring dragon fruit person, Paco Frausto. We watched him at the Pattaya Festival. He presented in 2019. And he has Pelora, like you wouldn't believe, grafted to some, I think it's Vietnamese white, or something similar, a white undatus. And that thing is huge, and it was making really beautiful high bricks fruit. For a while, I was concerned that if your rootstock isn't very sweet, it may affect the quality, the sweetness of your dragon fruit. But over time, his Peloras were getting well into the 20s. So I definitely think that undatus rootstock is a good one. All right, I'm starting to get winded on these, so let's try a few more, Scott.
Are there any ones that are good? Most of these?
No, I doubt it. I think the Sugar Dragon is the winner, man,
so far.
for the winter. And it's funny because some of these varieties probably would cost a lot of money for some people, or
Yeah, they sound
depending
fancy.
on where you buy them. And geez, it would be such a disappointment to have spend a lot of money for some of these.
Well, like you said, these aren't optimal
And it is off season.
examples.
Mhm.
But
So that's why I didn't want to do any of our typical fruit reviews on these, because I just don't think it's fair to the variety to taste them, unless, maybe if the plant was really mature, like that Sugar Dragon would have been a great review.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite Sugar Dragons of the season, which I can't believe.
yeah, they're not a good example of the variety,
No.
probably.
And here's a lot of these George Emmerich varieties are not very good off season.
And I feel like
That's
a
why I
lot of
haven't
these
shared
have
them
been
either.
a lot of these have been very similar.
Yep. A lot of them are, I would say, most likely a Polyrhizis hybrid. And
They're all the same
Costorocensis-
color.
Yeah, Costorocensis, Polyrhizis. They're just not my favorite varieties of dragon fruit. I'm sure there's a few that are okay or that are decent, but the more I taste and experience and evaluate, the less I like them. Sorry, Polyrhizis. A Red Janus can be really good, though.
All right, Max Tree says, which variety tastes like Sugar Dragon that's self-fertile and makes bigger fruit?
I don't think that exists yet, personally, but something really similar would be American Beauty. It's gonna probably, in my opinion, I think American Beauty tastes better. Or I have something like a Del Riego I'm sharing a lot of people. That one is similar to American Beauty. It's a no ID, and it was collected in Encinitas. by my next door neighbor, and he had lived it was next to his parents' house actually, and it's been there since like the early 90s, mid 80s. He was in middle school when he remembers the dragon fruit plant. And so anyways, I thought it was just American Beauty. I grew it out, and it produced these huge fruit similar to American Beauty, but the skin is darker, a lot like one that Paco calls La Palma. So there's a variability in Guatemalans.
Brian De Palma. What about Robles Red?
Robles Red is American Beauty crossed with Orejona, and it's good. I like it a lot, and I've noticed, at least in my experiences, that it is similar to Natural Mystic, where it will split a little bit when the temperatures are either cold or wet or really hot. And other than that, I like it. It is a good performer at Wallace Ranch, and it's worthy of they've been keeping it, and you know, Julio's has done well with that variety. I think I'm actually really excited because Julio gave me the original mother plant. We went and found it in the farm, and so I didn't beg, I just asked, and they hooked me up an original cutting from the original Robles Red plant. And you know, people like me, that means a lot, so I'm excited to have it. It's pretty good.
What was this? GE1?
Yeah, this is George Emmerich Jr.
That's pretty
number
good.
1.
I was pleasantly surprised with that.
Yep, I've liked this every season, and I'm probably going to share this with some people because I think it's similar to the Red ES1, but if you see here, flesh color is pretty much the same. Seeds are about the same. Skin's
That's
a little
tasty.
skinnier, but it is good.
I could see it being a little better. But
And I believe GE1 is a George Emmerich Jr., who actually gave Paul Thompson seedlings before Paul Thompson created his famous hybrids. And George Emmerich Jr., we have 48 of his plants, and I believe this one is a Undatus that he crossed with a Polyrhizis. Similar to Red ES1, a lot of the aspects look similar, but the spines are a lot longer, or a little bit longer, and the fruit consistently tastes different and better. It's sweeter.
yeah, this is good.
That was the best red of the season, of this selection so far.
Yeah.
Sugar Dragon was still better though, but it's a little mushy. I didn't wash my hands.
Yeah, that was good.
All
George
right.
Emmerich.
Man, it's super cool. I'm glad that we're doing this. Thank you for partaking this evening. We'll do a few more, and if we have some more questions, great, and then we'll get out of here. So I'm going to keep this for another night. Don't lose those seeds. All right, you ready to try George's Red? George's Red. This is not George Emmerich Jr. This was named by one of the people in... Ooh, it's more like George's Pink. This is what happens when it's not developed fully.
So it's gonna be a little under.
But this was named by one of the persons in the Facebook groups. I can't pronounce his name correctly, but I think it's DJOR. I can't remember. But a nice gentleman from what it seems.
He sent it to you?
No, I got this from one of the guys that sells dragon fruits on the websites now. Gilbert. I got it from Gilbert.
All right, Davis Dean Sellers.
Pretty good.
What are your thoughts on Aussie Gold dragon fruit?
Aussie Gold is one of the yellow-skinned Undatus, if I remember correctly. I have had 2 yellow-skinned Undatus, and I thought the fruit were just okay. Honestly, the more Undatus I eat, the less I personally like them. Although I am excited about a few. K1 from Spicy Exotics was hands down my favorite Undatus ever I've eaten. It's really dense texture. Another quality about that plant is that in our heat wave, it did not have any damaged fruit. Where I was throwing away my other white-fleshed Undatus, that one kept producing beautiful fruit consistently, and I enjoyed that one very much. The yellow skins, I would try more, but I don't know. They're pretty, and in terms of flavor, they're not going to be as good as Guatemalan, in my opinion.
All right.
So I hope I answered your question.
Got another one.
Yes, sir.
Max Tree says, "Can I buy a cutting of that similar to American Beauty variety you're talking about?" I think he's talking about Rose Red.
Send me an email, man. I'll give it to you for shipping. I don't charge for that one. It's a no ID, and I just think it's one of my favorites. So I want people to enjoy. Like honestly, if every person has a first dragon fruit and it's that one, I think that it would really change people's perception of dragon fruit. So send me an email. What plant is that, Paul, at gmail.com. And if you pay shipping, you could I'll give you one or two. I probably have about 8 left I want to give away. The rest I want to keep it.
Got another one. M Cube says, "Let me know when you get rid of some plants, and he would be happy to take some of them. He lives in Carlsbad."
All right.
And he said he said you gave him pollen last year.
Yeah, I give people pollen. I just leave it out the gate.
So he says he owes his first ever dragon fruit to you.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for watching, and I definitely have quite a few. I honestly have so many Soul Kitchen white. I'm gonna give away a bunch of white fleshed, and I have some that I have rooted. So if you're in our Facebook group, I'll share. I usually share in there. But or shoot me an email and I'll let you know what I have, and some of the things I want to give away and some things I want to sell for really cheap. So
Davis Dean Seller says the X. How about Laverne Red? I'm not really sure exactly.
Ooh, Laverne Red.
I
I actually really like Donovan's Laverne Red. I was lucky enough to get a cutting of Donovan's Laverne Red from it was horrible. It was from Donovan himself at the festival. And that plant didn't have a good first season in Fox Farms. And so that was 2020. 2021, I planted it in a pot and it dominated. And that thing is actually, Tim George, I told him I think Donovan's Laverne Red has commercial potential. And my first fruit, if you saw our review, I did it. I had 2 banging fruit, about almost 2 pounds. At least like a pound and a third, and they were delicious. So it's up there personally with like some of Paul Thompson's hybrids. I really do like that.
Are any of these good?
I don't look at that. We're not. You could try it, dude. But if you notice here, I'd be really careful because I missed it. If you look right here, it looks fine. Hopefully you guys could see that. But it's rotten, dude. Look.
Yeah, it looks gross.
I don't eat that. When it gets squishy, no thank you. I would love you to eat that. That is a little neon, but I've reached my critical mass of off-season dragon fruit. I mean, we did pretty well.
It's not bad. It's a little mushy.
That is a little neon. I actually like neon more than sugar dragon, believe it or not.
I didn't realize this was so tiny.
But you can see like how much compost we're gonna have.
And good for smoothies.
I know that some of you maybe have never had a dragon fruit and you're wishing that you could be here. Some of them would be okay, but other than the sugar dragon, I would give all these like a C or a D grade, man. Like they're more like eating your vegetables that you don't want to when you're little. You know what I mean? Like I almost feel like I have to sit here. Like if Scott made me eat the rest of these, I wouldn't be happy. I would probably be sitting here pouting.
The Brewing Miner says, "Have you continued testing dragon fruit plants in small pots after seeing that pink Laverne? I think dragon fruit. I've been interested in their small space capacity.
Capability. Sorry. I think you're onto something. I think you're right. I probably should set up some experiments for that, especially if you apply plenty of fertigation or fertilizer or even worm castings. You were absolutely right. Remember that Laverne pink that we got from that gentleman when we were doing that review? I can't remember his name offhand. I didn't even want it, right? I didn't want that plat, and he's like, "Please take it. It's gonna die." I took it. We gave it a bunch of Vermistera worm castings, and that ended up being a delicious fruit that was pink, and it was labeled from Laverne as Laverne Red. So. That's when they grew a lot of seedlings, but that's delicious fruit.
There's nothing else that was good over here?
No, sir. I think that's about it for the taste. So, does anybody have any questions before we sign off? Be happy to answer them. This is a good chance because I don't know, it's not something we usually do, huh? Maybe we'll do more.
We'll do more of these.
Especially during the season, like if we have some really banging fruit. It'd be awesome.
Doesn't look like there's any more questions.
All right, well,
that might be it.
We really appreciate you guys watching. So, thank you, and have a great night. And maybe enjoy some off-season dragon fruit sometime in the future. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.